Hi, I'm Thomas Hunt.
And I'm Ethan Hunt.
And this is the Bad News Network. On Thursday, a school bus full of children was hijacked by a United States Army trainee. The event happened near Fort Jackson, South Carolina, where it is believed that a trainee left the base with a rifle, scaled a fence, and boarded a bus when he walked onto the interstate. Reports say that he tried flagging down other vehicles before spotting the school bus. When he entered the bus, he told the bus driver that he didn't want to hurt anybody and that he just wanted a ride to the next town. The suspect told all the kids to get to the front of the bus. When this happened, the children did what kids do best and asked the guy so many questions that he got annoyed and let the kids and the driver off of the bus. Buses aren't like cars, or even trucks for that matter, and have a different braking system, so after a short trip down the street, the suspect stopped the bus, left his rifle on board, and surrendered to the police peacefully. Army Brigadier General Milford Beagle Jr., and we didn't make that up, said that he believes the suspect, who has only been identified as 23-year-old New Jersey native, was homesick. Sadly, they don't get to watch Jersey Shores, and he wasn't provided an interpreter so the rest of his unit could understand what he was saying. He was in the third week of a 10-week basic training course at Fort Jackson and is now being charged with multiple counts of kidnapping. Upon finding the rifle, officers realized that there was no ammunition loaded into it. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the situation, and this could have turned out pretty bad. Well, how could it really have been? I mean, these were third graders, so they were probably much smarter than that poor trainee. A lot of credit goes to the bus driver, as it should. The sheriff said he did a great job of keeping his cool and not overreacting. In the world of underappreciated jobs, we salute you, random bus driver. No matter how much those kids might have pissed you off, throwing books at the back of your head or fighting each other while you're trying to drive, you kept a level head and got them all out of there safe. Along with charges of kidnapping, he faces military discipline for going AWOL. Brigadier General Milford Beagle Jr. stated that rarely do you see anyone that goes AWOL admitted back in, but definitely not if they go AWOL and steal a school bus full of kids.
In my come on man story of the week, Bobby Paul Edwards, the owner of a J&J cafeteria in Conway, South Carolina, was found guilty of one count of forced labor for coercing an African-American man with an intellectual disability to work extensive hours at a restaurant for no pay. This is simultaneously the longest and most specific charge in court history. The original compensation awarded to Smith was about $270,000. But after the Court of Appeals took a closer look at the suit, they ruled that Smith should be entitled to double that, citing that most of the hours he worked should have been counted as overtime hours. Well, it's good to know the first court didn't give a f about actually helping this guy. Bobby Paul Edwards was sentenced to 10 years in prison for enslaving one of his employees. He was sentenced in 2019, but this week, John Christopher Smith, the employee that was enslaved, was awarded $546,000 in restitution by an appellate court. Christopher had an intellectual disability and was coerced by Edwards to work over 100 hours a week without pay. Edward would also beat Smith with his belt, hands, and even pots and pans. So if you do the math, the cost for enslaving another human for 10 years comes out to a little less than $11 an hour. What the f? First off, let me say this. If you're a friend of Bobby Paul, Billy Bob, Stevie Ray Edwards and knew this was going on, your should be in jail. And if you worked at the J&J cafeteria and saw this happening every day, your should be in jail too. And if you frequented the J&J cafeteria and didn't say anything, your should be in jail. In 2019, Conway had a population of 26,000 people. Now we all know in a town of this size, everybody knows everybody else's business. So I don't want to believe that this went on for 10 years and no one knew about it. Edwards was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Here's to hoping he drops the soap, and often. However, South Carolina just reinstated the firing squad as a suitable death row punishment. I think old Bobby Paul Edwards is a prime candidate to be the first to test this out. Because if human enslavement isn't worthy of the death penalty, then I don't know what is.
Quarantine has been a weird time for us all. At first, it was an amazing time to get day drunk, do drugs, and have random sex with the people you live with. Hopefully you didn't live alone or with your parents, because that would have been disgusting. But hey, to each his own. Condoms saw a huge influx of sales in the beginning, but slowly trailed off as people learned that they actually hated the person before they had been forced to spend every waking second with. This was especially hard on married couples, as they actually had to spend time together with their spouse and be completely immersed in all the annoying little details of the partners that they had been with and able to ignore for years. Nintendo announced this week that they saw a 34% increase in sales, which totaled about 1.76 trillion yen, or about 16 billion freedoms. Even though people were ready to give up sex, they still wanted to do something with their hands. The Nintendo staples like Pokemon and Super Mario totaled a record of 4.5 million freedoms, compared to almost half of that year previous. The Nintendo Switch is a handheld device that can also plug into the television, so you can piss off and ignore your entire family. It jumped 86% in sales over the past year. Animal Crossing, a game where you live a life similar to your real life, just without the burden of dealing with real humans, sold over 20 million units. Nintendo has planned to release more games in the second half of the year. Unfortunately, they won't be revamping Duck Hunt or GoldenEye, so I don't really care. Overall, Nintendo has been crushing it during the pandemic, which is nice for them since the pandemic has been crushing most businesses and the economy overall. Nintendo even launched the Super Nintendo World Theme Park in Osaka, Japan, which was quickly shut down due to the spike in the coronavirus cases. They closed down an entire theme park because of COVID, but we opened beaches up long before this. Damn, I love freedom. No wonder you guys lost the war. Grow some balls.
Speaking of quarantines, one of my favorite countries is New Zealand, home to the Maoris. The Maoris are some of the baddest warriors around. Their customary greeting is the hongi, a very personal and intimate greeting where you touch noses and foreheads and breathe each other's life's breath together. And there's nothing more emotional than a haka for a fallen comrade. Don't believe me? Go to YouTube and look up Second First Farewell, Their Fallen Comrade, with a huge haka. It gets dusty quick. And New Zealand's Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern, led the world when it came to COVID precautions. I think New Zealand had like minus 52 cases. Well done. Everyone should bow down to your quick action at the beginning of this silliness. But you failed to order the vaccine? So now your entire populace is trapped on the island if any countries are requiring people to be vaccinated before flying in? What the actual Jacinda? The All Blacks have rugby tournaments to win. Indiana Jones needs Salim for Indiana Jones 5. Better get those vaccines quickly.
19 kids and counting star/piece of Josh Duggar has put himself into some extremely hot water. In case you didn't know, the Duggars, they are a family from Arkansas who decided to try and have an entire football team full of children. They're devout Baptists who have also been associated with the quiverful moment which sees all children and blessings from God, and you should constantly be pumping them out. No condoms, no birth control, and definitely no backdoor entrance because it is a sin to waste any procreation juices. They get their movements named from Psalm 127, 3-5, where it's written, "Lo, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate." The family also practice chaperoned courtship, where most parents drop their kids off at the movies for their middle school date. The Duggars accompany kids for the entirety of the date. Not awkward at all. Even though the Duggars may have thought that all of their children were sent from God, Josh Duggar seems like he is the spawn of the devil. In 2015, he became one of the most hated men on the internet after allegations came out that he sexually molested 5 underage girls when he was 14 and 15 years old. It has now come to light that Josh told his father, Jim Bob, yes, that's his real name, about the molestation, including that 2 were his own sisters. Before the allegations came out, the show had been canceled. During the Ashley Madison website breach, information was released that showed Josh Duggar had paid almost $1,000 in subscription fees to the website while he and his family were preaching wholesome family values. When he was caught, he said, "I am the biggest hypocrite ever." Yeah, no shit, man. You didn't need to say it. We were all thinking that already. But at least he owned it. If we could only get our senators, representatives, and other politicians to freely admit what giant hypocrites they are. Just in case you didn't think those things were vile enough, which you should, he is now under investigation for child pornography charges. He was arrested by U.S. Marshals last week, and a day later he was indicted on a federal child pornography charge. Deputy Faulkner of the U.S. Marshals Office said they found over 200 images of child porn in his possession, and that this was the top 5 of the worst cases he had ever had to examine. Sorry, Marshal Faulkner, but I'm going to have to say on this. While one piece of child pornography is sick and disgusting, and there should be no trial, I do think his 200 is a drop in the bucket compared to what those other sick f***s out there have been busted with. Happily, this seems like a pretty straightforward, lock 'em up and let the prison rules sort 'em out kind of deal. But Judge Christy Comstock granted him a release from jail as he awaits trial. In unrelated news, wood chipper sales are flourishing as pedo hunting season has just been announced. Surprise! Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive. I know, I'm as surprised as you guys, but to be fair, there has been a lot going on. Presidential elections, people fighting about the vaccines, something about a ship getting stuck in a canal, so much news. But this week, a judge ordered Ghislaine Maxwell's trial delayed. The defense lawyers will propose the earliest date they think necessary, and the judge will either okay it or state an alternative. The delay comes at the complaints of the defense saying the sex trafficking charges that were levied against Maxwell in March doubled the case size and did not give the defense ample time to prepare. They have also complained about the guards in prison, saying that they have disrupted Maxwell's ability to review the evidence, sometimes by shining a flashlight in her face late at night while checking on her to make sure that she's still alive. While there will be a delay, the judge did reportedly tell the defense that it must come to a date in the time frame of this fall. It is in the victims' and the public's interest to see that this trial is set through. The setback only further increases the likelihood that later game death pool bettors may still yet prevail. I lost a long time ago. I didn't think she would make it this long, but it looks like she is hanging in there. Wait. The prosecutors opposed an adjournment, but would accept a March 2022 start date to avoid scheduling conflicts, saying that the public and victims have a strong interest in the trial proceedings without any untimely delays. The more time she spends in jail, the more time she has a chance to commit suicide. When told that they would have more time to put together a defense for Ghislaine, her defense team said that it was a surprise because they thought she was already dead. The trial is now slated for March 10th of next year, so if you haven't joined the Deadpool yet, there's still a chance for you. Until then, just remember, life, liberty, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
The cicadas are coming. And no, that's not a new NFL franchise in Pig Knuckle, Arkansas. After 17 long years underground, the Brood X cicadas will be emerging from the ground later this summer. What is a cicada, you might ask? Well, a cicada is a large homoopterous insect with long transparent wings, occurring chiefly in warm countries. The male cicada makes a loud, shrill droning noise by vibrating 2 membranes on its abdomen. Now, doesn't that make you feel better? Thank God they waited until 2021, because if they'd came out last year, I assume they'd either be like the bugs from Starship Troopers or the massive grubs from Gears of War, bent on destroying the human race. But the 2021 versions will probably be just as annoying. Brood X, which is a very intimidating name for these bugs, is predicted to contain over 1 trillion bugs. Nope, don't like that. The bugs will appear in about 15 states for 2 to 4 weeks, where they will spend time humping in the treetops, buzzing around, being loud as f***, and then dying. Then, like a gift from the gods, they will fall to the ground, making a crunchy bubble wrap-like cover on the sidewalk to be stepped on by us, squirting their guts all over our shoes. Awesome! I can't wait. For bug scientists, actually they're called entomologists, the emergence of the 17-year cicada is like their Super Bowl. What a bunch of nerds, right? Why are you excited for this? The only thing you should be excited about are all of the animals that get to eat these flying roaches. The cicadas are on almost every animal's hit list, including small hillbilly children who will put anything in their mouths. Look, cicadas, I know this is kind of your thing, but I would recommend that you just stay underground this year. There's nothing to see. We're just getting back outside. Why do you have to come out now? Democrats have already released a statement saying that the cicadas need to be vaccinated or will need to wear a mask the entire time they're above ground. So if you're an entrepreneur and want to make some quick cash, cicada masks.
This week, the Bidens visited with former President and First Lady Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, which resulted in one of the weirder pictures of all of these individuals. I'm not sure if it's the fault of the cameraman or if they were shooting on the seat of Pee-wee's Playhouse, because for some reason the Bidens look like absolute giants compared to the Carters. What is this a school for? Ants? While some people are saying that it's just the angle that the Carters are sitting in that makes them look so small, some people are speculating that Biden can feed off of the life force of other politicians in order to stay alive, causing them to shrivel up like raisins. Another thing people pointed out was that Biden wasn't wearing a mask while he was visiting a 96-year-old former president. Some people will say he is vaccinated, so it's okay, but there is a picture of Biden taken while he was in a Zoom meeting alone in an office the other day, and he was wearing a mask. Who are you trying to fool? Whether you believe masks work or not, I'm 100% certain that your breath particles are not going to make it through the interwebs.
On Sunday, a boat full of people trying to enter the United States illegally capsized near San Diego. The boat was carrying around 33 people who said they had paid thousands of dollars to smugglers to get them into the United States. Some people reported paying between $15,000 and $18,000 to get onto the boat, with hopes of making it to the shore safely. The vessel was a 40-foot cabin cruiser that broke apart after hitting a reef near the Cabrillo National Monument in Point Loma. 33 people were pulled out of the water, with 3 of those individuals being found deceased. 5 of the passengers are currently recovering in the hospital, with 1 being in critical condition. At least 26 of the surviving passengers were Mexican nationals who did not have legal status to enter the United States. Antonio Hurtado has been identified as the boat's captain and has been taken into federal custody for attempting to bring people to the country illegally. Everyone on the boat told Border Patrol agents that he was the captain, so he is probably going to suffer the most consequences. Coast Guard officials said that the boat was severely overcrowded, which is what led to the boat sinking. Generally, these ships are easy to point out. This one didn't look like a typical panga, which is made out of random wood objects and has the structural integrity of a cereal box. This ship, however, was able to blend in with other commercial boats, which allowed it to get much closer to shore. Illegally entering the country is, well, illegal, but it's hard for me to blame the passengers of the ship. They scraped together all the money they could in order to get a chance to bring them and their families to a country where they're told they will be safe in. They're willing to take this insanely dangerous trek because the place they are coming from is insanely horrible. I do, however, blame the boat captain. He took advantage of these people, putting their lives in danger so he could make money. Antonio, you're the scum of the earth. These people are just trying to get safe passage to a country where what's probably going to happen to them is they're going to get arrested and be deported and lose their money, while you already have roots here and you can get away without being caught and take all of these people's dough. Hey, Antonio, off.
And finally, in Florida Man news, a wild Karen appears. Well, her name was actually Judith, but man, doesn't she exhibit almost all the traits of Karen. Judith Ann Black, a 77-year-old Floridian who works part-time as a Paula Deen lookalike, was arrested after she threw her Burger King burger at a cashier working in a restaurant. Ironically, Black, who is white, also screamed slurs after she chucked her burger across the counter, calling the cashier a black. But it was actually Black who was being the. There must have been something really wrong with her burger if she was willing to yeet it instead of eat it, right? Nope, she was mad about the thickness of the tomatoes on her burger. Judith wanted her tomato slices to be thicker than a bowl of oatmeal, and these little dainty slices weren't doing anything for her. Burger King, a little bit of this is your fault. Your slogan is, have it your way. You f***ed up a long time ago. If this Karen wants tomatoes thicker than a Snicker, she gets it her way. The police were called to the Burger King on 7 Mile Drive, just 1 mile away from where Eminem used to live, and were able to identify Black's Dodge Ram pickup from the surveillance footage that showed her license plate. The camera also captured her mounted Confederate flag and redneck Neck Lives Matter sticker, which pointed police right in her direction. To Black's credit, when she was arrested, she immediately confessed to the crime. Black was going to be charged with a misdemeanor for throwing the burger, but because she yelled racial slurs at the cashier, she will now be charged with a felony. Bad news, Karen. You won't be able to complain about the food at the place you're going to. The menu isn't that customizable. They are mostly just serving up fur burgers, roast beef sandwiches, and tuna tacos. In prison, you don't get it your way. You give it their way. And with that, I'm Thomas Hunt.
And I'm Ethan Hunt.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Don't forget that you can always use the code BNN at rangerup.com to get 25% off your order. And if you'd like to follow Nick and Matt on their OnlyFans, check them out at Nick and Matt. Have a great weekend.